Hi, Pastor Nathan Decker with your hashtag Better Together devotion for today. One of the crazy things about the stories that Jesus tells is that they are within first century Judean context, Palestinian context. They're within this understanding of that world. And sometimes when we read those stories, our world's understanding comes down and plops itself on top of that, and it makes it really hard for us to hear the story exactly the way that Jesus was telling it. I'll give you a good example of this. So one of the things that I got to do that was a wonderful opportunity was I got to go to Cambodia and teach pastors and lay servants classes on reading the scriptures and understanding the gospel, especially the gospels of Jesus and the parables of Jesus. And one of the parables that we were dealing with was the story that comes from the context of a righteous, maybe even self-righteous, law-abiding citizen who says, well, what am I supposed to do to get into the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus says, well, love God and love your neighbor. Yeah, I've done this, but let me ask you this. Who is my neighbor exactly, Jesus? Who is my neighbor? To which we get the story of a man traveling on a road, getting beaten down and abused by others, and thrown into the ditch, left to die. And along comes a priest, and along comes a Pharisee, a Levite, and they don't do anything. In fact, they pretend they can't see this pile of blood and humanity that's going through this struggle. But then this other man, who happens to be a Samaritan, comes and picks this man up and bandages his wounds, puts him on his horse, and goes to the inn and says, I will pay whatever it costs to help him heal, put it on my tab. Now, we hear that story and we're like, oh yeah, it's the Good Samaritan. We like the Good Samaritan. We even got Good Samaritan laws that protect people that help others. The Good Samaritan. Samaritans are good. That's the problem. We're missing the point. We're glossing over the whole aspect of this story. When I told it in Cambodia, I told it as the Good Vietnamese. Because what I gathered real quickly while I was there was that a lot of the younger Cambodians felt that the Vietnamese nation and the Vietnamese people had taken advantage and taken power in Cambodia. They didn't like the Vietnamese at all. And I said, so if I was telling this story, I would have the man be somebody from Cambodia, and he got beaten down and abused. And then the pastor came by and avoided him, and the lay leader came by and avoided him. But then the Vietnamese man came by. And even though the Vietnamese man knew in his heart that this Cambodian person did not like him one bit, he still took him and bandaged his wounds and took him and placed him in and took care of all of his bills. See, we miss the aspect that Samaritans and Jews did not like each other. From the Jewish perspective, Samaritans were half-breeds at best, dogs, that they did not deserve to be called the people of God. They were the outsiders, immigrants, illegal, nothing we wanted to be a part of. And Jesus told the story, and he said, which of these people was a neighbor to the man in the ditch? And the lawyer admitted it was the Samaritan. He said, then go be like that. Go be like somebody who's on the outside, who cares for somebody on the inside. Because we as Christians, we are eternally on the outside. We are resident aliens. We are citizens of heaven who happen to still be traveling as strangers in a strange world called Earth. And we are called as the outsiders to love those on the inside, to care for them. Who do you not like? Who do you see as not welcomed? Pray today and ask yourself, how can I be a better neighbor to that person? How can I love them the way that God has loved me? How can I welcome them? How can I bless them? How can I bandage their wounds? Many times the anger they have to me actually comes from hurts they have within. How can I be a good Samaritan? Unless you're from Cambodia, and then call it a good Vietnamese. Be better together today.